Yo, what's going on guys, it's Cryptic TMG and I'm back with a brand new video. This time it's AOR's GT3 Elite Championship Season 8 Round 3 at Algarve, and yeah, I was hoping to have a much better race than I did in the last one, which was pretty boring after I really stuffed up qualifying. Qualifying is something I definitely have to work on. We did do a bit of qualifying practice this time. I had a little go in time trial and stuff like that, and yeah, definitely felt like the pace was there in the car. Definitely felt like in this particular race I could at least mix it a little bit more with the Ferraris and the guys at the front. Wasn't such a big advantage that the Ferrari had around here, so yeah, I was hoping for a good race. In practice, to be honest, I'd been right there on pace, especially in race pace. I'd definitely been right there, so I was thinking definitely expecting a podium, and just hope that I got qualifying together, because that's the area at the moment where I'm struggling. Don't really know why. It was actually pretty much a strong point of mine last season at AOR on Project Cars 1, but for this game it's definitely been a weakness so far, the qualifying. But yeah, starting off in qualifying this time, desperate to get in at least a decent banker lap, so let's see how qualifying went. And yeah, trust me, this is a much better race. So coming up towards the end of my first flying lap, which was pretty much just a banker, yeah, we crossed the line, and I knew it wasn't too bad a time. I wasn't sure how fast the other guys were going. I knew CJ had already put in a really strong time already, and we managed a 42.5, which it wasn't terrible, but obviously I knew I could go a lot quicker. I knew I could get at least mid to high 41 is what I was expecting for qualifying. But so far on our next flying lap, not too bad. With the McLaren, sorry, not the McLaren, with the Audi, it is sort of better to go on the second lap. It's just not as quick. There's no grip on the first lap in the Audi. It just, for me personally, it always feels better on the second lap. So I knew I was going to do 2 flying laps, and just a little bit missed that hairpin. We just went in a little bit too deep, just stayed a little bit away from the curve, and that seemed to be a little bit where we let ourselves down, because before our first sectors were really strong, but I think we only got like a 39.5 first sector. I have in the past on the 39 1s and 2s in the first sector, so quite a way off through the first sector. The middle sector we pretty much got what we needed, like a 25.9 or 26.0, normally good enough, but we're about 3 tenths up on our time at the moment, coming into the last sector, where I did make a small mistake. I didn't go down to first gear, and then I went up into third here, and I just took it completely wrong. Normally I'd take that third to last corner in first, straight back up into second, and I don't shift up to third. And you can see it affects how much time we had gained a little bit, but then we do gain a little bit more coming out of the last corner, managing to keep it flat. And so, I mean, definitely could have got into the 41s at this point. I thought I should have got a 41 on this lap, to be honest, if I just did the last few corners properly. But we knew we still had time to find, but obviously we're still sort of 6 tenths away from CJ. So I didn't actually think I would get pole, but I did think I would at least, I had a chance to maybe get on the front row, or definitely start on the second row. But it's just that some guys are putting in some really good times, and the pressure is starting to build, and you can see the times elapsed, and I'm down to about 45 seconds of the session left. So this is going to be my last lap of the session, but I knew that if I could just get that first sector done properly, then I'll be fine. It was all about the first sector for me, because I knew I'd lost just way too much compared to what I was doing before. But it's been a decent first sector, been able to push it. I got a really good exit out this corner. You can see 2 tenths just right there, but for some reason I turned in just a little bit early, just understeers wide, and straight away I just give up the lap. You can't run that wide in a lap and carry on. It'll just be cheating. So yeah, that was pretty much me qualifying done. This time in 5th place. It wasn't what I was expecting. I was expecting to do a lot better, but it wasn't the worst qualifying position compared to where I qualified at Spa. So I mean, I still knew I had the race pace to at least be at the front of the grid, so I was pretty confident. The one thing I did do that I made a mistake on, because we did a practice race was it the day before, and I put 95 litres in, but in a practice race we kept sort of slowing down for each other when someone would make a mistake, so I put 95 litres in, and I realised in the practice race I only finished with 4 litres, and if we're going to be racing all the way through in this race I probably needed a little bit more than 95 litres, so I put it in lean for the formation lap, and I made the same mistake I've made previously. I think it was at Imola where I just left it in lean at the start of the race, and it was kind of a blessing in disguise, and you're going to see why in a minute. I don't get a great start. I pretty much get jumped by a Sappo straight away. Carl gets off the line better than me as well. You can see the Goliath and the Ferrari up the inside, and I just let him have it, but he brakes way too late and completely wipes Carl out. We get a little nudge on the left hand side of our car there. It actually gave us 1% rear damage, and I was already dreading how the car was going to feel, because when you have damage it might not be enough to like really hamper your speed, but it's enough just to throw your car just a little bit off balance. You can definitely tell the difference, especially with it being from the rear, and there's a lot of corners where you're braking and turning around this circuit, so I was a bit nervous how the car was going to feel, and at this point I was thinking, wow, like these guys' race pace is amazing, everyone's just completely dropping me. At this point I still haven't even realised I've just left the car in lean, so everyone just pulling away from me. I'm thinking, wow, Carl got absolutely smashed at the first corner and he was still quicker than me down the straight, so I was thinking no. I started looking behind me, I saw how much this Audi was gaining on me, like with us being in the same car I thought, yeah, my fuel, I've left it on lean. And I'm glad I noticed it sort of on the first lap and not sort of 5-6 laps in, because I would have been getting past left, right and centre. It just shows you the difference between the fuel mixtures on this game is pretty big. I'm not sure if it's like this in all the other cars, but in the Audi it's pretty big, the difference between the fuel mixtures. But now I'd kind of give myself more work to do, down to 7th place, and yeah, just another. I don't think I've had a single good start, so yeah, that's another thing I need to improve on. Carl goes into the pits because obviously he had damage from that first lap. It was pretty crazy, and yeah, it was just, now it was time to just focus. I had a little bit of clear air and I could see what my pace would be compared to the others, so I just kind of kept it pushing, tried to just close down the gaps as quick as I could. And you can see by lap 4 I've started to home in on Nick Nitro, but the field is definitely a lot closer in this track. I'm not sure why that is, but it was definitely a lot closer, definitely more competitive round here, and you really had to just not make any mistakes to catch up. But in practice I knew my pace was really strong for this event for some reason. Maybe it's just a track that I'm good at. I did quite well in the community event around here in the NSX when they had default setup, so I was pretty confident I had at least just raw pace around here anyway. So I just knew if I just keep plodding along and just don't make any mistakes, I could catch the guys in front of me. CJ by this point he was completely gone. He'd bolted, and I think Kung Jarnix had got into 2nd place, so Sisivoma wasn't able to sort of get on the back of CJ, so CJ just completely just pulled the gap out and just controlled the pace of the race. But you can see us in the braking zones really closing up to Nick Nitro, and yeah, it was just, can I get past him was the question, because obviously the Audi not the strongest down the straights, and I wasn't too sure how quick the McLaren would be down the straights. But I do remember when I first got the game, Carl in the McLaren, he was pretty much able to get 42 ones from the get-go without really having a setup or anything like that. So I knew the McLaren was quite fast around here, so I wasn't sure where I'd stack up on the straight. I know the Ferraris down the straights are a lot stronger than the Audi, but I wasn't sure if the McLaren had this similar sort of advantage down the straight. So I was kind of thinking, where am I going to get past this guy? If he's too fast down the straight, where am I going to get past this guy? Because on this track, any overtake that's not sort of down that straight is sort of a risk because of just the way how the braking zones are. A lot of it is braking and turning and stuff like that, so it's quite risky. But I knew I was closing up loads on the brakes, and I just tried to focus on getting a good exit out of the. You got to get a good exit from the second to last corner to even stand a chance through the last corner. But the last corner is so fast and so long that you kind of got to give up on trying to take it flat out. And what I did is I just let off the power, turned in early, it understeered, so I didn't end up cutting the track and see if I could get into the slipstream. I didn't manage to get in the slipstream, but you can see not gaining massively, and he's weaving, going defensive, and for me I didn't think, oh, I'm not close enough, so I wasn't going to risk anything, but he defends it inside and we managed to do the cutback, and he leaves us room on the right hand side. We managed to slip through, outbrake him into the next corner and just hold it on the apex so he can't get the cutback on us, and that's us up into 5th place. And yeah, it's where I started the race, but I had aspirations obviously to get on the podium, and by this time I knew winning the race was completely never going to happen. CJ was just, his pace was way too strong. We knew we was never going to catch him. In practice we were, me, CJ and Carl, we were like nose to tail, and it didn't matter who was at the front, no one could pull away. So if your pace is sort of that close to somebody, there's just no chance you're going to catch them up, especially if they're not making any mistakes. But yeah, I felt like I could catch the 3 guys in front of me who were having a proper ding-dong battle. But the problem with this circuit is that last corner is so hard to stay close. It really is hard to stay close for that corner. You sort of got to let off the throttle very early so you get the turn in and then get on the power as early as possible. But to try and stay on the throttle, you just get a massive amount of understeer that just pushes you wide. And yeah, it's you really got to take care when you're going through that corner if you want to make that overtake. But you can see Kung Janit's going defensive in front of us, and we're just hoping that he manages to slow the guys down in front. I didn't want Sissivoma to get past him before I caught the back of the train, because you know, you never know what pace he's going to have, and if I then struggle to get past, then you know, it's a potential position that we might not be able to gain. So yeah, I mean, it was definitely a tough race, and tougher than what I'd had before in terms of how many people were competitive and the pace of the race. It really was one of them ones where you just gotta keep smashing in the laps. I wasn't too concerned with like tyre wear and stuff like that. We'd done a practice race, so I knew the tyres would last. I knew you could really just push for the. I feel like this is the first race where I feel like I could just push and the car just felt fine. It's a pity I had the 1% damage at the rear, although I don't think it slowed me down massively. It definitely slowed me down a little bit. I mean, our pace in practice was, as soon as the race started, we were straight in the 42s pretty much, and towards the end of the race, I think I did a 42.1 towards the end of the race, so I wasn't even that far from my quali time that I actually got in quali. So when we were practicing, well, in practice I tend to always go a little bit quicker than what I do in the race for some reason, which is quite annoying. But I made a few adjustments to my car before the race just to make sure that it wasn't too, I don't know, too aggressive, should I say. My car was sort of, in practice it was very fast, but there was the tendency to make a mistake. The back end did get a little bit light, so I just added a little more rear downforce just to make it a little bit more secure, and I'm not sure if that hampered my pace a little bit, but it definitely made it more secure in the most part, so I was happy with that. But you can see now, going to lap 11, I've almost caught the back of the train. I'm just trying to get into that slipstream, trying to get right up behind the guys and just trying not to make any mistakes. As we're going to the last corner, you see Sissivoma in front, and Farah gets sideways, and he seems like he's sideways for an age and just drops it, couldn't hold it, and I think he hits the wall. So that's someone who's our championship rival at the moment, although he's won the first 2 races way out in front in the championship. But with him making a mistake, and I'm sure he hit the wall when he pitted, so that's obviously him out of the running for this race, and that was our chance to really make some ground in the championship. So now it's pretty much down to us to see if we can sort of get the best finishing position we can from where we are, and obviously we're going to have to sort of get a move on trying to attack these guys in front, because I felt like in clear air I definitely had the pace to run sort of high mid 42s. I'm not sure if how much damage affect us or whatever, so I wasn't sure if I could get back down to the 42.1s that I did in practice, but I definitely thought we could ride sort of mid 42s in clear air. But it's just not an easy track to overtake, and it's not an easy track to follow, because a lot of the corners are sort of fast, so you do get that understeer, especially when in the braking zones. You do sort of you feel like you lose a bit of front downforce when you're braking behind people. So I tend to try and brake in different lines. I tend not to sort of brake directly behind their car. That seemed to be working for me, but now we was just thinking, how am I going to get past? How am I going to get past these guys in front? Obviously they were battling, and because maybe Sapo's got the slipstream from Kunjanitz, it's going to make it even harder for me to get past, because it's just like he's in slipstream, I'm in slipstream, we're both probably going as quick as the other will go down the straight, so it proved quite difficult. But I just thought for the last corner, just keep letting off early, keep trying to keep a tight line for as much as I can, and you can see it just sort of propels us down the straight, and Sapo doesn't defend it at all. He just keeps the car straight. I go down to the inside, and I wanted to see how late he was going to brake. I broke pretty late. I was on the inside, just tried to make it. I really had to turn the wheel because I could see I was never going to make the corner. And I'm not sure if we made contact. I'm not too sure. I don't think we did. But for some reason he lets me back through. Maybe because he went off the circuit. But I wasn't expecting him to let me back through, because pretty much him going off the circuit sort of saved us from having contact. So yeah, it was good awareness from Sapo, and I don't know, the car just wouldn't slow down in time. I broke late, but not ridiculously late, not Goliath late, lap 1. But yeah, now I want to see if I could catch Kunjanitz. Obviously I had pretty strong pace in quali, so wasn't too sure where his race pace would be, but I knew if I just keep my head down, I was sort of confident I can make inroads. But the back end just comes around a little bit, not a full spin, just a little bit of a spin, but it let Sapo straight back through, and I thought, wow, can't believe I've done that, cannot believe I've done that. And all while me and Sapo are battling, obviously Kunjanitz is just pulling away. So I let off again for the last corner just to get another good run. You can see how much it propels us, but I think Sapo gets a little bit of a better run that time as well. And yeah, we get in the slipstream, and I don't know, it seems the only car I can actually overtake properly is the other Audi. When I try and overtake the McLaren or even attempt a Ferrari overtake, it's just never as easy as when you're trying to fight someone in the same car as you. So you see again, I have a little half spin, and that's created a little gap again. I thought, wow, I'm giving myself so much work to do. From us only being sort of a second and a bit behind Kunjanitz and the guys, we've totally lost a good sort of 4-5 seconds almost. So I just had to sort of think, oh, just keep it on the track, concentrate. I knew I had the pace. It was just more just the consistency. And obviously when you're in practice and you can sort of run your own times, you don't sort of think about how the car's on the handle when you're stuck behind someone. So that's another thing that probably slows you down in a race. And I think in practice I just drive without any cares. I drive without not caring if I make a mistake, so I just push more. Whereas in the race you've got to kind of be a little bit more careful. But yeah, catching back up to Sapo now, and it's sometimes like midway through the race, the car tends to go away from you a little bit. It tends to start becoming a little bit hard to brake, a little bit hard to slow down, but then it does come back to you as the fuel goes out. It's like a phase that you need to sort of get past before the car starts feeling really good again. You can see us, we keep taking that tight line, because I just believe, especially when you're behind someone, it's definitely much quicker. Even if you have to lift off, because normally you can actually get around that last corner flat, but even if you have to lift off, I think the tight line is so much quicker. And you can see us gaining towards the end of the straight. But yeah, 15 laps in, and really hit that curb hard. But 15 laps in, and we're in 4th place. And I mean, I can't say I didn't expect to be up here. I did expect to be up at the front, but with the circumstances of the bad start, I was pretty happy with my race so far. I was happy enough with my race pace. But it was just sort of 1 or 2 mistakes that cost us. Obviously the mistake at the beginning with the fuel, but as I said before, that was sort of almost our saving grace, because we could have been where Carl was at the start, because we were actually next to Carl on the grid. So we could have been where he was at the start, and that could have been us getting punted off. And if you get hit that hard with and you've got sort of damage on your car, which significant damage, and you've got a pit, it's going to be a very tough race to sort of come back through the field. And yeah, it's just it's just not nice. I know it was like drive through damage in the last race, and it's just watching the times being well slower than what you can do. It's just a horrible feeling. But anyway, on the back of Sapo still, even though it feels like we've done so many laps, but we still had a good 21 laps to do. So it's just one of them tracks that the races seemed to go on forever. It felt like we were racing for so long. And again, I get a sort of a good run out of this last corner, but I thought it was just a little bit too far away. But the slipstream that you get, especially that I get when I'm following the Audi, seems to be pretty big. I mean, I didn't actually think I'd be able to get alongside him, but he doesn't really defend it, and this time we managed to keep it a little cleaner, and we leave him room on the outside. I didn't want to push him off the track or anything like that, and yeah, managed to make the overtake, keep it tight on the apex again so we can't get the cut back. And yeah, I was at this point, I turned in and I didn't realise that he still had his nose there, so I was thinking please back out of it, because I had already sort of made the decision to turn in, and it could have been curtains for us if we'd had contact there. But good old must have let off, and yeah, managed to let us through. About can we catch Kung Jarnux now, who always seems to be the same person since race 1. It's always the same person who we're trying to close down on for a podium position or something like that. So yeah, it's crazy that we always end up sort of on the same part of the track at the same part of the race in the exact same situation in the first 3 races. So yeah, pretty crazy, but testament to his how consistent he is, and yeah, it's done really well on the McLaren. So for us, it was sort of just, can we focus and close him down? I didn't want to get into any more battles with Sapo. I was trying not to make any more mistakes, and if I could drag him along as well, then even better. It would just be 3 of us battling at the end, which will be pretty good for the people watching. And yeah, for those who don't know, the race is actually live streamed. I think is it Matt Cooley or Matt Conley? I'll leave a description to his channel below, and you can catch the races live on Wednesdays. Instead of just watching my point of view, you can sort of see the whole race, and the commentator, Mr. F1 Radio, I believe it is, did a really good job. So yeah, I'll leave a description to that channel down below, and you can watch the actual live footage of the race. It was pretty good. I watched it back, and yeah, it's looking and sounding pretty good. Really happy with what they've done there. About time the PS4 guys start getting some exposure. But back to this race, just gonna try and lap consistently, gonna try and lap in the 42s. That's at this stage of the race, you want to be getting sort of mid to high 42s. And yeah, at the moment our pace was a little bit all over the place. 1 minute being 43s, high 43s, low 43s, 44s, and now it's just the time to really get our head down and just focus and see what pace we could do. You can see we just start going into consistent mode. I mean, it wasn't as quick as what I was expecting, but we were still low 43s pretty much almost every lap until we got near the end of the race, just 40, 43s, 43s. You can tell we're closing in on Kung Jarnux a little bit. Sapo actually had some technical difficulties, I believe. I think his wheel went back to the home menu and he got stuck in, I think he got stuck in second gear or something like that. Yeah, I'm not sure what wheel he's got. It sounds like a T300 problem. I've had that plenty of times, but here, 5 laps to go, almost caught Kung Jarnux, and we just get on the curb and brake, and then round she goes. And that was one of the corners where if I was going to drop it, it was going to be there. Just sort of the braking and turning on the curb, it just doesn't, the car just does not like that. I don't think any car in this game likes that. The braking and turning on the curb really just chucks you straight off. It's not happening. Doesn't want to feel that. And yeah, another mistake. But I mean, I was pushing, so I wasn't too dispirited from the mistake, because there was no guarantee I was going to get the position, and it had taken me so long to close the gap to where we were. I wasn't even sure if I was going to properly get on the back of him before the end anyway. But yeah, I mean, I guess we'll never know now. And then after all that was happening, I looked down at my fuel. I thought, hold on a second. My fuel was looking a little bit light, if I'm honest. And what I did remember, like I said right at the beginning, in the practice race when we did a full race, me, CJ and Carl, I finished with only about 4 litres, but as I said, in that race we were waiting for each other. There was countless times in that race where someone spun or someone got damaged, and we just slowed down on track and waited for each other, and all the time while I was doing that I was saving fuel, obviously. So in the race I thought, you know what, I'm actually not going to make it, it's going to be really tight. So I actually had to start thinking about fuel saving and stuff like that, and we spun, we still had quite a healthy gap behind us. I wasn't worried about getting caught from behind, but I was starting to worry about my fuel, looking only 15 litres left, and we sort of got 4.5 laps to go, so it's gonna be pretty tight. And the last thing I wanted to do was, after a race like this, was to run out of fuel. So I started thinking, you know what, I'm just gonna have to start saving fuel. I'm just gonna have to start short shifting, braking early, putting the engine mix down. But you've already seen how slow changing your engine mix actually makes you in this game. It really does slow you down quite a bit. And yeah, I mean, this was, in this race, I think this was the most I've seen the tyres worn, the hard tyres, because obviously the track temperature is quite high around here, and you got to push through the fast corners to get the lap time. This was the most I've seen the tyres worn, but I was still pretty confident I'm going to make it to the end with no real tyre problems. But with the tyres starting to go, the fuel down, you just little things start creeping into your mind, and obviously I'd already made the mistake and spun, so that wasn't good for the tyres. I put the fuel mix down to normal, and then I just sort of start coasting around the lap, and you'll start seeing my lap times in a minute. I start going really slow, to the point where my position was starting to become under threat because I was just going that slow. And then I come up to a lap car here, and for some reason I broke early, but the car just did not want to stop, and I really thought I was going to hit him, and I managed to get it stopped. He saw me coming, and yeah, I was so lucky. And you can see now, see what lap times we've been doing. I think the last lap before this was actually like a 46. That's how slow we were going. And yeah, car behind us actually got quite close. I think they actually made a mistake. As you can see, me, I hit that curb again, bounces me out wide again, and yeah, it was just let me just concentrate and make it to the end without spinning. I'm still looking at my fuel, like 8 litres left. That at this point I thought, yeah, I should pretty much make it, because it should only be about two something litres a lap. So yeah, we just cruise round on the last lap now. At least we've managed to sort of secure a podium position from where we started in 5th place, and our first lap, I think we dropped down to 7th. Really bad start. And yeah, obviously with Carl pitting, that was a position. With Sissu Voma making a mistake, that was another position. But it was probably 2 of the guys who we would have thought would have been in front of us, especially in the Ferrari. So I mean, it wasn't too bad. We finished behind Kung Jarnus again, same as Spa. So I think now he jumped us in the championship. I believe I was actually 2nd in the championship before this race. I think I probably dropped down to 3rd, but obviously with us finishing in front of Sissu Voma, we've probably made some inroads into his lead at the moment. And yeah, I mean, Sissu Voma actually managed to battle back and finish 6th, I believe. And with Carl, I think Carl retired, so I mean, that's pretty much his championship over. So it was just pretty much it's all about just trying to finish the race. Last season, just used to if it wasn't going my way and I'd had enough, I would just retire. But you never know what can happen in these races, so you just gotta keep going. Sissu Verma kept going, and he's gonna end up finishing 6th, so still get some decent points. And yeah, I mean, I was pretty happy with my race. I thought, I mean, I could have done slightly better in quali, could have not made the mistake spinning the car in the last 5 laps, but still, I think we had a pretty good race. There was some moments in the race where I really had to just get my head down and just make sure I caught back up to the guys in front, because we were sort of just lagging behind. But there you see the finishing positions. We finished 3rd, quite a way off CJ. Obviously CJ getting away at the front, but I thought we did pretty well, and like, yeah, in the end pretty happy with my position. So can't complain too much. I think I did a pretty good comeback. There was a few times where I just messed it up for myself, but yeah, next week's going to be Brands Hatch, which is a track that I'm not that fond of. I don't really find it particularly hard, but I just find the track really boring. Just not one of my favourites at all. But I think it's going to be a wet race. Obviously, you can catch my next video. That'll be next week Saturday if you want to keep up with the championship. Obviously, you can actually watch the race live. I believe the channel is Matt Cooley. I'll leave the link in the description below. But anyway, for more videos, like and subscribe to get the videos first. Hit that notification bell. I'm Cryptic TMG. What else can I say but peace.